I was told very clearly by my ex-husband and members of his family that no one would ever believe me. This is a story about a villain and a victim. This is a story about power and what happens when you slowly give that power away. Because the biggest lesson that came out of that marriage, and the reason I believe so deeply in helping women reclaim their lives and their financial independence today, is that you should never outsource your power, especially your financial power. There's something really important that you should know about me. And that is that from the time I was maybe 4 or 5 years old, I had this deep knowing in my heart that God had laid on me. I didn't exactly know what it meant, and I didn't exactly know how it would happen or why it would happen. I was meant to change the world in some way. Hey guys, and welcome back to another episode of Financial Mastery Simplified. I am your host, Jax Crider, and today there's a story that I've avoided telling publicly for a very long time. And not because it didn't matter, but because I was told very clearly by my ex-husband and members of his family that no one would ever believe me, and that he never laid a finger on me, that everything that happened in our marriage was my fault. And for a very long time, a small part of me wondered if maybe they were right. So I stayed really quiet. But today I am going to tell this story. And not because I want sympathy, and not because I want to paint myself as the victim, because definitely I'm not. And in fact, before I even start, I want to say something very, very clearly. I was absolutely no saint in that relationship. I can be stubborn and strong-willed, and sometimes I don't even listen as clearly as I should the first time someone tells me something. So this is a story about a villain and a victim. This is a story about power and what happens when you slowly give that power away. Because the biggest lesson that came out of that marriage, and the reason I believe so deeply in helping women reclaim their lives and their financial independence today, is that you should never outsource your power, especially your financial power. And so before I get into it and tell you exactly what happened, there's something really important that you should know about me. And that is that from the time I was maybe 4 or 5 years old, I had this deep knowing in my heart that God had laid on me. I didn't exactly know what it meant, and I didn't exactly know how it would happen or why it would happen. I didn't know why. But what I knew with one thing, with absolute certainty, is that the calling on my life was big, world-changing, life-changing, big. And it wasn't a question mark in my mind. It was just this foregone conclusion, something that I knew. I was meant to change the world in some way. And that sense of purpose, that sense of power, it has always been the thing that drives me. And so when people hear the next part of the story, I know what some of them are going to think. I was married at 21. I was divorced by 24. And a lot of people hear that and they assume that the marriage failed because we were really young, right? But getting married young was not why that marriage failed. I did really know what I wanted out of life, and I knew the kind of life that I wanted to live. Not every detail, not the exact how or all the timeline, not exactly the roadmap, but I knew the general direction that I was walking. And I'd known it since I was like 4 or 5 years old. And what age hadn't given me yet was the confidence and the wisdom to recognize the manipulation when it was wrapped in what looked like love. And at the beginning, it absolutely looked like love. So now let's get into this story. So when I very first started dating my ex-husband, I was actually dating 3 other guys as well. And it's important to the story because he was relentless in his pursuit of me. He did all these super thoughtful, super elaborate dates where, I mean, literally we would go from horseback riding and then get fully dolled up and go to the symphony, and he would have chocolate covered strawberries waiting for me. And so I felt really deeply seen. And I really felt like that here's the relationship that is going to fight through life with me, right? And that to me was just so important because I had really never been seen like that by anybody before. And so when somebody makes you feel so deeply seen, it's really easy to believe that they're the person who is going to stand beside you through anything. And so, we started dating and he relentlessly pursued me, and quite quickly the other 3 guys kind of fell by the wayside, right? I kind of felt like I had met my person. And we dated for maybe 9 months or so. He proposed. It was definitely one of those really whirlwind, really cool proposals. We like went to Canada. We did all of this, really nice meal and everything. And he gets wet on one knee, he proposes, and that's amazing, right? And so as we're preparing for this wedding, we get really, really close to the day that we're actually supposed to get married, which was about 15, 16 months after we'd started dating. And something just kind of felt off. And I couldn't quite put my finger on it. I didn't really necessarily know like what it was that just sort of felt off. Maybe like that kind of quiet intuition you sort of get. And when I approached a couple of people, they just said, like it was cold feet, right? Like that's what they told me. Like, oh, you really shouldn't worry. It's just cold feet. And that was the very first time I ignored my intuition. I'd kind of been told my whole life, like, oh, you don't need to pay attention to that or that can't be true. And so I just sort of let it step aside, right? And so here we are. We get married, beautiful, wonderful wedding, right? Literally super magical. Like 500 people were invited to my wedding and like 300 and something showed up. It was at like this really crazy nice restaurant. The actual reception, I mean, it was bells and whistles. It was amazing. And the thing that I remember so incredibly clearly right after we got married is, so we had to go south because we were getting on a cruise ship in Galveston the next day. We lived in Dallas Fort Worth area, Texas. And so we were driving to Houston and we were spending that night in Houston. And then the next morning we were going to finish the drive to Galveston. And so we obviously needed to grab our stuff, and then go ahead and like get in the car and whatever. And so we went back to my parents' house to get dressed, and I'll never forget it. He helped me take off my dress, which should have been like, this sweet romantic thing, but there was really nothing sweet about that moment. It was done very controlling. I remember feeling a little bit uneasy, right? Like I had just married this person and immediately everything had changed. He started kind of being a little controlling. And again, you kind of slough it off, tell yourself, well, like you just got married, like things are different, whatever, it'll be fine. And so I did. I kind of, didn't pay that much attention to it. And, that part was frustrating, but I think the part that started being more frustrating was some of what happened next, which it started really slowly. He would take and sort of make me feel like I was an idiot. And I'll give you a very clear example of this situation, right? So it was like he was breaking me down to control me. So we were in the car and I tell silly stories and whatever. And so I was telling this story about something that happened at work. And I said, yeah, wasn't that stupid? And he said without a thought, yeah, almost as stupid as that story. And I was like, oh, well, okay, then I guess you feel like I'm stupid. And of course, I didn't say that out loud, but, it just kind of smacks you in the face. Like, here's this person that you're supposed to be, is supposed to be your person. And this is the attitude they sort of take towards you. And it kind of continued. One of the things that was really hard was the financial control aspect. So we were married for 38 months, and 18 out of 38 months, I was actually the only one working. And we had made the decision as a couple that he was going to mainly control the money. So please understand that decision wasn't made in a vacuum. We talked about it or whatever. And, that made sense at the time. Like, okay, one person is going to be the main person who handles the money. And, he basically wanted one person to either have all of the control or none of the control. And so for me, I didn't want all the control. That didn't make sense. And so I said, okay, well, I mean, he'll handle it. Like, that'll be fine. And there's one specific story that will paint how much of a control freak he was about money. Actually there's two. So the first one is, I'll never forget, I went to Target and I think I spent like $20 or something. I don't even know what I bought, to be real with you. And I got the third degree. Why did you spend $20 at Target? What were you doing? Blah, 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 all this other kind of stuff, right? Another time, I made a $5,000 bonus, and understand I wasn't making a lot of money in this moment. I probably was making like $32,000 a year in salary, maybe 30,000. I mean, not a lot of money, right? And I made a $5,000 bonus. This was a really big deal to our family, whatever. And I was allowed to spend $100. That's what I was allowed to spend. And what did I spend it on, you might ask? Shoes. I spent it on a pair of professional shoes. And why did I spend it on shoes? Well, my other professional shoes had literally worn holes in them, and I wasn't allowed to get a new pair. So I had to use my fun money that I was allowed to buy those shoes. And looking back at it now, it wasn't financial management, right? Like, this was financial control. And there were other instances where some extreme control was being executed. For instance, I was being told that my friends, my family, that they didn't really care about me, that they didn't have my best interests at heart. And there was a sort of separation of family and friends. And that was really, really hard for me because, first of all, my family is very close. I mean, if I don't talk to both of my parents at least once or twice a week, as well as really my brother, that's very odd, right? We talk to each other usually quite a bit. And so, this was like this kind of splitting off sort of, you shouldn't talk to them. They don't have your best interests at heart. Again, that was kind of hard. I realize now, obviously, that there was a lot of control aspects coming into it, a lot of manipulation, right? A lot of gaslighting, because I started to literally feel crazy. I didn't know what to do. And the funny thing is I stuck up for him. When people at work would tell me, oh, wow, he doesn't let you do this or whatever. I mean, I stuck up for him. I was like, no, you're not in our marriage. You don't understand. I wanted so much to believe that he was this person that I knew him to be and not this crazy kind of control freak person. Right. And a very specific instance happened in a relationship. So I remember I told you that 18 out of 38 months, I was the only one working. Well, he got an opportunity to go and work really close to where his parents lived and in the industry that his family had been in for years and years and years. And that required us to move, and we owned a house. So we needed, he made the decision he was going to go up there. I was going to stay here. I was going to sell the house. I was going to work on finding a job in that location so that I could, also move up there, etc. And he went up there and he hated the job, absolutely hated it. And so I gave him a couple of choices. I said, you can come back here and you can find another job here. You could stick it out there and, maybe the job will get a little bit better. You could even find another job there if you want to, and we'll still continue to move, just kind of let me know what you're thinking. And ultimately, he made the decision that he wanted to come back, and that was fine. But something had categorically changed in this, gosh, it wasn't even that long, 3 months maybe, amount of time. I had started taking some of the control back, right? Because I was here managing a house all by myself and I needed to handle it. And so when he came back, he expected me to carte blanche hand over this control to him again. And I said, no, not exactly like that. It wasn't like a conversation where he said, I want the control. And I said, no. But as you can imagine, through conversations, he's trying to push the issue, push back this control piece down my throat, and I am resisting. So we had been getting into fights, which was very odd for us. We typically literally had never fought. We didn't raise voices. I actually thought that this was like a point of honor, like we never fought, because my family is very hot-blooded and definitely gets into it and has conversations and all these things. And so I thought, wow, look at our relationship. It's amazing. We don't ever fight. What I didn't realize was we were never really dealing with the issues. Well, then he comes back and I'm unwilling to give up all of this control again. And so we're getting into it. And so now I'm at work one day, and the coworker who sat like right behind me in the cubicle right behind me, she says to me, "Hey, could we go to lunch today?" And I'm like, "Yeah, sure. I'd love to go to lunch with you." And so here we are, we're at lunch and sitting there across from each other. And she's like, "Hey, what's that?" And I said, "What's what?" She points to my arm. And around both arms, I have fingerprint bruises, big thumbprints. Okay. And she said, "Look at me. I know what that is. It only gets worse. It never gets better. Don't do what I did. I let him put me in the hospital 3 times before I learned. And first of all, I'm gonna be real with you, I had no idea how these bruises even got there. And then when I started thinking back, when we were getting in fights, he would, like, grab me and, like, shake me, and that must have been where the bruises were coming from, but I wasn't even registering this because in the moment, I was so upset and so just, like, whatever. I wasn't even realizing that this was taking place. And then she tells me this story, and she says, I've been dating this guy. We've been seeing each other for a long time. We were sitting watching a football game and we were eating nachos. And she said, I went and we were eating nachos, and the dog came up. And I pet the dog. And then I went and I grabbed another nacho. And in a split second, he backhanded me and I fell backwards. She's like, at the time, I didn't understand why he backhanded me. But I learned later it was because I had touched the dog and then touched the nachos without washing my hand. And she said to me, it only gets worse. It never gets better. You need to leave. And so somebody's telling you this story and oof, like that's harsh, right? And something in that moment really clicked for me because I had been unaware of how bad the control had been and that abuse, it isn't about the reason. It is literally about control.
Stay tuned. We'll be back right after this message from our sponsors.
Imagine having the power to control your financial destiny, no matter where you start. Welcome to the Financial Mastery Simplified course and resource platform, where financial education is tailored to your unique journey. We cover everything you need, from basic budgeting and saving strategies to advanced investing and retirement planning. Learn at your own pace with lessons that match your level of experience. Whether you're a beginner or looking to enhance your financial knowledge, join our community of learners and benefit from shared insights and expert guidance. The Financial Mastery Simplified course and resource platform equips you with the skills and confidence to take charge of your financial future. Ready to master your finances? Enroll in our courses today at the Financial Mastery Simplified course and resource platform. Start your path to financial independence now.
Visit us at fms.tips and fms.college for more information.
Hello and welcome to PBJ Mortgage, where your home ownership dreams become reality. Today, we want to share why choosing PBJ Mortgage is the right choice for your home financing needs. At PBJ Mortgage, we're built on a foundation of values that drive us every day. Our commitment to educate, empathize, and empower our clients sets us apart in the mortgage industry. Our clients are at the heart of everything we do, and their success stories speak volumes. With years of experience, our team possesses in-depth knowledge of the mortgage programs, ensuring you receive expert guidance and the best possible rates. We offer a diverse range of loan options to suit your unique needs, including conventional, FHA, VA, and more. No matter your situation, we've got a solution. At PBJ Mortgage, we pride ourselves on providing personalized service. Our dedicated loan officers are here to guide you every step of the way, making the process as smooth as making a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. We understand that time is of the essence, which is why we've streamlined our processes for efficiency and convenience. Transparency and clear communication are paramount. You'll always know where you stand throughout your mortgage journey. Reach out to us today to set up a call to discover your options. If you're ready to make your home ownership dreams a reality, contact PBJ Mortgage today. Let us empower you during this exciting journey. Phone number 4-693-733-107 www.pbjteam.com. Visit our website or give us a call to get started. We look forward to helping you secure your future home. PBJ Mortgage, where home begins.
Thanks for your patience.
And so, yeah, the next thing that transpires kind of in this story is that we were scheduled to go to a marriage conference that my parents had paid for. And so I really wanted to work on this relationship. I really wanted to make it work. I mean, remember, this is my person, so I want to figure it out. I'm a very stubborn person, and so I'm going to figure it out. So we go to this marriage conference and I think everything, is going pretty well. I don't necessarily agree with every solution that we came out of with this marriage retreat, but hey, perfect. We're going to figure it out. We're going to work on it. We're going to get better, right? One night, and I honestly to this day cannot tell you what we were in a fight about. I don't remember and I don't know. We're in this fight. And this time I'm a little more aware of what's happening because of the conversation with a coworker. And he grabs me, both hands. And you have to remind yourself, he's 6'2", I'm 5'2". He grabs me with both hands. He takes me, he shakes me. He's furious. The fury in his face, I don't know if I'll ever forget it. And he takes me and he throws me across the room. Luckily, I hit our padded headboard. So it didn't actually hurt me, but it scared me half to death. And in that moment, I realized something so clearly. I can't live like this. This is not okay. And after this, we decide to separate. He actually lives with my parents in this period, who, by the way, my dad did not believe me. He thought that I was making it up. He thought that I would have told people what was going on. But to be perfectly honest with you, I didn't necessarily know what was going on, right? I had this misguided idea that the control, all of those things were coming out of a place of love, which I actually don't believe that my ex-husband was doing any of this out of like ill will. I really don't. Like, as crazy as that sounds, and I know people will say, what are you talking about? Like, he threw you across the room. I hear you, but I don't think that he did it intentionally or on purpose, or believing that like I don't believe he's a bad guy. I don't, to this day. And he lived with my parents, and my parents got to see firsthand the manipulation, the changing stories, the control aspect, right? Like what that looked like. And the day that I made the decision that that was it, I was done, I will never forget it as long as I live. I pulled up to the house to pick him up, him and my brother. We were going to go eat dinner, and he gets in the car first. And my mom had been on him and I had been on him to go see a counselor because I had already been seeing one, and I wanted him to see a counselor and then me to see a counselor and then us to see one together to try to figure it out. And he gets in the car and I said to him, hey, how'd the counseling session go today? And he was like, good. Apparently you have some issues and I have some issues, and, we both had some issues. And I'm thinking to myself, that's pretty fair. And he's like, and apparently I need to read every Dr. Phil book known to man. It was just sort of the tone, like the way he said it, right? Like, I was like, okay. And then fast forward and I said, okay, so what about the psychiatrist appointment? Like, how did that go? And he's like, good. He thinks I might be a little depressed. And I was thinking to myself, a little depressed. Like, that's an understatement, but okay. And he's like, but, he wants to wait to figure out if we need to do medicine because, medicine doesn't solve everything. And again, just this very condescending tone. He couldn't have given a rat's rear end. He wasn't taking this seriously. And something inside me just broke. I have put up with years at this point, like 2.5, almost 3 years of him putting me down, him taking over all the financial stuff or whatever, all of this. And it really wasn't what he even said. It was just the complete lack of responsibility that basically in a relationship, all of this control, all of this abuse basically had transpired, and he didn't even want to take ownership, not even a little bit. And in that moment, I realized I could not keep making excuses for him anymore. This was not love. This was not a relationship. Like, this was utter crap. And I'm going to be so real with you. The physical abuse, it was way easier to heal from, right? Because bruises fade, and I never really got super physically hurt. Yes, he grabbed me, shook me, I had bruises. Yes, he grabbed me, shook me, threw me across a room. So yes, those things did happen. They were smaller, isolated incidents, and I wasn't really very physically hurt. The mental and emotional abuse, guys, it echoed in my head and in my heart for years. No one will want you, and you will never have another successful relationship again, and you'll never be happy. You will never have kids. He knew exactly where to hit me to make it hurt the most. And so, the day I finally felt free, the day that I could finally breathe again, I just knew that whatever came next had to be better than that hell that I had been living in. And so, again, I want to say something that I've said before, and it might surprise a lot of people, but I do believe that my ex husband deeply and truly loved me. And I don't believe that he was a bad person and that he is a bad person. I don't believe that. But love that requires control is not love that allows someone to thrive. And so, no matter what, I wanted to make this episode, first of all, because I know so many people who have lived with financial, emotional, mental, spiritual, physical abuse. And I need you to hear that no matter what happens, you have a choice and a say in your own life. No one can control unless you decide and choose to give them your power. Whatever your reasoning, mine was very pure. It was given out of love. It was given out of this idea that he was going to care for me and he wanted what was best for me. And I truly believe, like I said, that he thought that he was doing that. But you have to realize, if you have given your power away, if you've realized that, if you come to that realization, you say, man, I may have already given it away. You also have the ability to take it back. Your power was never meant to belong to anybody but you. And so I made this episode because even though I personally have told this story to other people in my life, other people know this story, I thought to myself, I make a financial podcast, but a lot of people probably don't know and or understand why I'm so big on intentionality and alignment and, not outsourcing your power. It's because I've been there. I have been in the worst and hardest places that you can imagine. And so if you're listening to this and you're in this season and you've given somebody your power, whether it be a significant other, whether it be a family member, a friend, doesn't matter who it is, I need you to hear that you have the ability to take that back. Nobody gets to decide who has your power but you. And so I'm not the victim of this story, because this story is what shapes how I help people, how I reach people, how I pour into people, right? But hopefully, maybe this story will bring you to an awakening a little earlier than it took me to get there. And so I hope this episode of Financial Mastery Simplified was helpful for you. And I hope to see you next week on another episode of Financial Mastery Simplified.